Hi, everyone. Welcome to The God of San Francisco, Queer History Through Poetry, hosted by the LGBT Historical Society. My name is Terry Beswick, and I'm the Executive Director of the Historical Society, and I'm so excited to be here tonight to introduce this event with an illustrious panel of poets led by moderator and poet James J. Siegel. But first, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that the GLBT Historical Society is based on Ohlone tribal land, and I invite any Indigenous folks with us today to make themselves visible in the chat and be recognized as we honor the contemporary and ancestral lives of America's Indigenous people. So, founded in 1985, the Gay, Lesbian, Bisexual, and Transgender Historical Society is recognized internationally as a leader in the field of LGBTQ public history. Our mission is to collect, preserve, exhibit, and make accessible to the public materials and knowledge to support and promote understanding of LGBTQ history, culture, and arts in all their diversity. Our operations are centered around two sites, the GLBT Historical Society Museum, located in the heart of San Francisco's Castro neighborhood, and the Dr. John P. DeCecco Archives and Research Center, located in Mid-Market. And although the archives and museum remain closed due to the pandemic, please check out our growing array of exhibitions, events, and archival resources at glbthistory.org. So now, on to today's event, The God of San Francisco, Queer History Through Poetry. In honor of National Poetry Month in April, poet James J. Siegel will read excerpts from his new poetry collection, The God of San Francisco, a poetic exploration of San Francisco's queer history from the North Beach drag scene to Twin Peaks Tavern in the Castro, from the triumphant election of Harvey Milk to the devastating HIV/AIDS epidemic. Siegel will be joined by queer poets Natasha Dennerstein, Dazié Grego-Sykes, Baruch, Porras-Hernandez, and Jacque Rancourt, who will read their own poetry that explores our personal connections to LGBTQ history, our queer ancestors, and the ongoing fight for equality. So this event is being recorded and live streamed on Facebook and on YouTube, and will be posted to our YouTube channel and on our website. But if you are watching with us live, we do welcome your active participation in the forum, and we encourage you to post questions and comments in the comment box at the bottom of your screen. So finally, with no further ado, allow me to introduce today's moderator, who will introduce the rest of the panel. James J. Siegel, he, him, is the author of the poetry collection, The God of San Francisco, published in 2020 by Sibling Rivalry Press. He is the host and curator of the monthly literary speakeasy show at Martuni's Piano Bar in San Francisco. Originally from Toledo, Ohio, his first poetry collection, How Ghosts Travel, was inspired and fueled by his coming of age in the Midwest and was a finalist for the Ohiona Book Award. He was a scholarship recipient to the Antioch Writers Workshop in Yellow Springs, Ohio, and his poems have been featured in a number of journals, including the Cortland Review, Borderlands, Texas Poetry Review, HIV Here and Now, and the Good Men Project. He was also featured in the anthology Divining Divas, 100 Gay Men on Their Muses. And with that, let's bring James on, and we'll get started. James, thank you so much for doing this panel and bringing to us this event for National Poetry Month. We're really honored to have you all here, and thank you. And I'll turn it over to you to introduce the event.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Terry, for all those wonderful words that you said. And thank you so much for having me. And thank you, all of you, for being here and logging on with us this evening. This is the God of San Francisco Queer History Through Poetry. So thank you so much for coming. And we have 4 amazing poets tonight. We're celebrating National Poetry Month and how poetry reflects queer history and why poetry is so important to queer history. And so I have 4 amazing writers tonight. We have Jacque Rancorn, Dazié Grego-Sykes, Natasha Dennerstein, and Baruch Porras-Hernandez. When I asked all of them to read tonight, I was honored that they all said yes. I'm so excited to have them here. They are amazing, amazing Bay Area poets. So I wanted this to be an opportunity to promote my new book, The God of San Francisco, but instead of just promoting my book, I wanted to do something for the GLBT Historical Society, because this book is my love letter to San Francisco, and it is my love letter to all of the queer ancestors who came before me. I would not be where I am right now without them, and without all of the wonderful things that the society does. In fact, it was the society who allowed me to have the wonderful photograph that's on the cover of the book. I am indebted to them for many, many reasons. So we have 4 amazing poets for you tonight who are going to read on that theme of queer history and how that impacts them. And we are going to get right into it. Our first poet for the night, I'm so excited for. He's just an amazing talent. He's the author of the full-length poetry collections, Broken Spectre, which is forthcoming, Novena, as well as the chapbook, which is an excellent chapbook, in the Time of Prep. His poems have appeared in the Boston Review, Georgia Review, Kenyon Review, New England Review, many others. He's also a former Wallace Stegner Fellow. Amazing, accomplished poet, and I love his work so much. So please welcome Jacque Rancorn, everyone.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, James, for bringing this together. And it's such an honor to read with you all and to celebrate The God of San Francisco, which is such a beautiful book. So very happy to be here. I'm going to read 5 poems tonight, all from my forthcoming collection. And I'm going to start with this poem called Near the End of the Century. And, you know, today, in my other life, I'm a middle school principal. And I was speaking at assembly today about the Day of Silence, which was this week, which, you know, honors the pain and trauma of the queer community and breaking the silence and you know, and coming out through that oppression. And I was talking to the kids about how a lot of the struggles of the queer community are, you know, may look very different than they did in years past, but in a lot of ways they look very much the same. And so this poem is about exactly that idea, the difference and similarities of that struggle. So this is called Near the End of the Century. It's 1987, by which I mean I've been born, though barely, while in the heart of Harlem, strutters peck down a runway and speakers fray on about love, park benches with no street lamps, examination rooms with no rubber bands to bulge the veins blue. Time is elastic. Either it's 1994 or it's 1980, or it was just last night. It makes no difference. Someone slipped out the back screen porch of their parents' home for the last time. Someone leaves behind everything they know about how this will end to the future, to stand outside those warehouse doors, bass crushing their chest. They might be a vision then, if they could enter. They might reapply mascara in the greased bathroom mirror or duck walk the runway, their hands 2 birds bickering above their hair. They might make out with a ghost. They might twirl like a disco ball, spraying every person in this room with flecks of lit glass unto the host, clacking fans with both hands declares, the old world has passed away. Behold, all things have been made new. But for now, it's not yet the end of the century, by which I mean they have no reason not to believe her. This next poem sort of examines this idea of gay bars and what they mean to our community and the kind of shift in nature of these kind of community spaces, especially as, you know, with the coronavirus, we've unfortunately seen the closure of some of our first gay bars in the city. So I was thinking about sort of what role they play, especially for a new crop of crop of gay people and queer people coming up, and what role that plays in their lives too. This is called Western Wall. I don't go to gay bars anymore, someone tells me. And sure enough, another board's up. Soon, there won't be a need for places like these anymore. There's a word for what we lose when we gain, Our utopias have all been urban, have all been set like jewels across the coasts. We're from different elsewheres. Evening, I sat with my father to watch the fish flick the pond through dusk. I'll never go back. There is no queer pastoral for a reason. I hold your hand through public parks. The eucalyptus trees all peel overhead into strips the koi flutter through. We see another queer couple making out on a bench, and some days it seems we found it, a holy city, swollen with light and sound, on the back of the ton, so close you could almost swallow it. I know it won't last. I've read every myth. Somewhere, a Western wall still holds our prayers in its teeth. I want to be seen. I want to live. Like in Jerusalem, right before or right after the siege. This next poem is called The Fall. For Eve, choice didn't factor when you offered her a fruit so swollen it made her drunk. And after the first bite, after the first sweetly cold scent of fall, she ate it, core and all, with the fever of one who has never eaten. To want is to live. To refuse food is to admit nothing more can be done. In the club, which is more of a church, where the gobo casts the floor into stained glass, a younger man slips his hand up my shirt to tug at my nipple. Because I want what anyone wants, who's watched the trees on his street grow leafless and thin, I take him back to my place, where he insists I go deeper, snapping off my condom without an edge of fear. As if for him, there is no deep enough. As if for him, he never spoke his name into a well's mouth to listen if it came back. This next poem is called The Wake, and the poem is enjambed, meaning that the lines continue to go from one line to, the sentence continues to run from one line to the next. However, I've inserted periods at the end of each line to bifurcate them and disrupt them in their organic function. So you'll hear me pause awkwardly through this poem to represent each of these periods, even though the sentence continues. So this is called The Wake. What seemed necessarily bleak became. Two wet cormorants filling the branch of one tree. More than just wading birds, more than just a lake, a dark scar at the center of my city. More than anything, I wanted to forget a time when desire named its price. In summer, two hummingbirds take turns sucking one beer tongue dry. Then I was born, I say, in a place between two hills. The year AZT was released. When I checked the records, I was relieved that no one shared exactly my name. That migration might mean the birds won't come back. That 636,000 of us died, and I did not know a single one. All right, so this is the last poem I'll read tonight. Thank you again for tuning in and listening. This is called Love in the Time of Prep. I'm sure if you're logged into this reading, I'm sure you know what prep is, but it's a pill one can take daily to lower the chances of contracting HIV. And this poem makes reference to Baruch and Spectra, which is the title of my forthcoming book. And Baruch and Spectra is basically this phenomenon where in some mountain ranges, first seen in the Rocky Mountains of Germany, your shadow is sort of emitted onto the clouds and like 4 or 5 times larger than yourself. And it's surrounded by a rainbow in the mist. So I make reference to that in this poem. In Love in the Time of Prep. To see more clearly, we climb the shifting sands of Haleakala volcano. The guidebook says we might be haunted if the mist and the light are just right. And sure enough, a rainbow halos my head's shadow. Baruch and Spectra, it's called, and isn't this awesome, you, my dorky husband, say. You are thinking about science again, about how light and water particles bounce and interact and refract against each other, whereas I, the melodramatic poet, see some paranormal visitor, some queer saint. Back home in bed, you tell me how, in the early 90s, to you, coming out meant either you killed yourself or you died from AIDS, and you chose to come out anyway. Time moves like bluffs, like erosion. It flattens to rift and split. It carves down the precipice like the runoff we clambered up to find the path already deteriorated. I hiked in just flip-flops, and when a thon broke, I hiked in bare feet. Let's go back someday. Let's go back to where the ocean's panorama was endless and shimmering, where the violets bursting forth were reminders that the world will go on generously without us. In bed, I kiss you between your shoulder blades and say, I'm glad you're here. North of us, 2 freshmen are skipping class. They are learning. They are taking turns, taking each other raw, as if alone they are discovering something new. As if none of this had ever happened. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jacques. That was Jacque J. Rancourt, everybody. Beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing. The new book, I see September 2021, Broken Spectre, Alice James books. Look it up, and also In the Time of Prep. It's amazing, so get that. But thank you so much, Jacques. Also, just to let all of you know, there is a chat. So we're going to try to do a little Q&A here at the end of the show. You can use the chat throughout the night if you just want to tell somebody that you love what they read, or if you want to ask a question about it later. Put it in there, and we will we'll get to it later tonight. So we're going to get next to our next reader. He's an Oakland-based performance artist, educator, author, and activist. He's a graduate from the Experimental Performance Institute at New College in San Francisco and holds an MFA in Interdisciplinary Arts and Writing from the California Institute of Integral Studies. He's won the Best of SF Fringe Award in 2017 and recently published a collection of poetry from Nomadic Press titled Black Faggotry, which sits along his debut spoken word album, Make Me Black. Currently, he's writing a play titled The 45th, which focuses on the impact of the Trump administration on the lives of Black and Brown people in the Bay Area. So excited, everyone. Welcome, Dazié Grego-Sykes.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you for the introduction. Congratulations on your book. And thank you for inviting me to read tonight. Yeah, let's get into the Black gay ancestry right quick. Everything that I'm reading tonight is available in my book, Black Faggotry, which was published by Nomadic Press. This piece is called Middle Passaged. Born of cotton wombs, softly whipped to coffin, nappy hair to prune, in hopes to stop the laughing. Blistered foot is doomed to walk another day. Uneducated tongue, careful what you say. Broke shoulders spend your life, hesitant but look. See not what holds today, but pray for what's been took. We connect to our ancestors through the dialect we speak. We protect our broken English, our so-called poor grammar, because more important than any language is the oral history we must keep. It is swimming between our tongues and the very roof of our mouths. It is an accent from Africa, United States, North or South. We are the children who have no written language. We hieroglyph pilgrims of the ocean. We voodoo prince, eyes, weeping willows, green moss, and forgotten days of mounting lions that still know our names. They pace behind bars in zoos, not unlike too many young black brothers. The growl disturbs the once sweet dreams. We hear them under covers. Can't reach for the hand of God, but pass the hand of mothers. Hoard the love that's in your heart, then look for some from others. He thrashes his hips against his lover, refuses to turn over and become receptive, believes that death is born of absorbing his lover's own dying seed. Nothing grows, wearing skin like withered leaves. Press your ear to my chest. Hear the mischievous wind left seeping heart, keeping kisses left by breath that cannot be perceived. Do not forget, the beloved can always leave. Water thrusts, spilling blood of pirates with swords unsheathed. Froth on the shore, undrying saliva of African bones and names that will never be retrieved. I look to her. I call out cousin. I scream, uncle. Cry, do you remember me? Ask, was it the vessel, the ocean, or the pale skins that stole you from me? No tears travel from the green in my Atlantic. I middle passaged tenderly. Well, look, this is the book. Still really excited about it. I haven't been published. This piece is written about a queer ancestor who we lost to AIDS. He was one of the first gay men that I ever met, and he taught me a lot. His name was Griffin. I knew the word was mighty when Griffin, that man who wore skirts, simple cotton fabrics in neutral tones of cream or brown. At 6'3", he was a tower to this post-adolescent pre-man. Me, just 17. That's 1 month after a dick in my hand meant love, not just a relapse back to Boy Scout camp. I stood, shaking. Shaking because what I was seeing in this man is what my grandmother's had. Contagious laughter. A voice smooth and harmonious, breath that smelled like home because a life of barbecues, cocoa butter, ultra sheen and prayer had nestled into the cracks of those battered lips. Lips that kissed, small nieces and nephews, lingering on foreheads longer than any auntie or mother dared because he understood they could not be his children. Lips that licked, tears from cheeks and bleeding knuckles that were meant to hold, but were forced into protecting from would-be cousins, brothers, lovers, friends. Lips that parted and separated, inviting, accepting, entertaining, giving pleasures, swallowing small tremors. Lips that prepared and cleansed phallic extensions moments before they were pushed into a warm place you must feel to believe. And when condoms broke or found their way into bed corners, couch crevices, wallets and jeans on floors, places that may have well been foreign countries, grasping the moment seemed common sensual. See, he needed that thing in him. He needed that thing now. Not now, but right now. Yes, words are mighty, but love is ruled by Aphrodite. So a year later, when he had swollen glands and morning sickness, he knew. He knew, like all sissies turn queen, no. His man hadn't given him small foreheads to kiss, but his own to place cold cloths upon, because straight girls get babies, faggots get AIDS. He never asked for revenge or cliched phrases. What goes around really does come around, just never from those lips. Me, just 17, not knowing of the word myself or of shared experiences, thought this man that wore skirts that lacked flamboyancy could not be touched by my own simplicity. He never asked to hear this poem, but still I read. I felt his touch again at last, closed my eyes and remembered what once was, rejoiced and mourned the presence of his love as arms and legs tangled in darkness. I felt his skin, the warmth of his breath, suffocating me, pacifying me, loving me. One more night. I watched him sleep, knowing when the sun rose he would no longer be mine. In lust, I ignored tomorrow's pain, the Moonlight began to fade. As the sun slowly crept up the blankets onto his sleeping face, I held him, closed my eyes, and remembered. I will never again forget. Getting up, I kissed his lips, sucked in the morning air, resenting the sun once more. I looked at him laying peacefully, wondering if it was too late to have him awake in my arms where he would be overcome by my love for him and know this is where he belongs. He awoke. My fears became reality. I watched him rub the sleep from his eyes and me from his soul, but I remembered love. Finished and looking up from my very first journal, I saw those eyes like grandmothers have do what I thought they could not do. He cried. So when I read that poem, I knew he believed in new beginnings, second chances, and lives lived in something other than vain. He chose. He chose to fill me with the foundation of those tears while eating his own cynicism. And I'm not a jaded old queen, he said. And yes, I played dueling dicks and lost and pick and choose your battles, baby. Yeah, he called me baby. Called everyone baby. Called grown men years older than him baby. And they accepted it. The way a child says nothing when called. Beans, peanut butter, Deb or Pookie. Have your lines ready, he said, then baby again. And when he ain't loving you, you love you, but don't give in. Don't ever think you have to know them hearts. Them hearts are always gonna beat again. And then this final piece is called My Black Male Body. My black male body does not belong to you. It is not yours. It will not submit under whip or word. My black male body's purpose is not to further your political or personal agenda. You cannot liberate me. The idea that you can contradicts the concept that I'm already free. I'm not a savage to domesticate or a slave to repossess. I'm not an underdog because I've been past your tests. My black male body is not in prison. My black male body is not contained. My black male body exists here. My black male body exists now. My black male body exists for itself and because of itself. My black male body is male. My black male body is male. My black male body is intimidating. My black male body is strong. My black male body is fighting you. I am not Martin Luther King. I am Jason, Damien, Khalil. I'm that nigga. Over there, I'm indicated by your fear. My black male body is brown. My black male body is tan. My black male body is pale. My black male body is fooling you. I am not a movement or waste or felt potential. I am not a weapon, an excuse, or a grave. I am what I am. I'm who I have been. I'm who I need to be. See, so I am Sambo. I am Zip Coon. I am Mandingo, and I is pretty. My pain is not a canvas. My history is not a primer for your guilt. I am not a magnifying glass. You will not see yourself through me. You could never fire me because you never hired me. You cannot reimburse me. You cannot buy me or reimburse me for my labor. I am not an African. I am not a new Negro. I am not a poem. Romanticize yourself. Clearly, that's what you're used to. I'm here for you. I'm here to be something other than you. Something for you to hate. Something at which you can marvel. I am not yours. But I'm not supposed to be. Not hardly. Not possibly. Not ever. Not in any light, at any time, in whatever dimension, string theory, distraction from the nowness that is me. I am an obstacle, a grudge, an improvisation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dazié Grego-Sykes, everyone. Thank you so much. Your words are great, and I love the way you read. It's powerful. So thank you so much, and thank you for coming out tonight. So everyone, feel free to make some comments to Dazié and ask him any questions at the end of the show. So before we get to our next person for the evening, I just want to let you know that for some of you who donated to the museum tonight, if you donated $20 or more, you're going to get a copy of my book. If you didn't get a chance to do that, you can see there's a little banner up there right now. You can also go to the glbthistory.org/donate. Send in $20. You can email the receipt to Lee over at the museum, and we will get you a nice signed copy of that book. So there you go, and there's the email. So send the receipt there, and I'll make sure you get a book. So let's make sure we support the museum. All right, we are going to get to our next reader of the night. I love her. She's just an amazing Bay Area poet, and love everything that she does on the scene for the community. She's born in Melbourne, Australia. It's an MFA from San Francisco State University. Her collections include Anatomize, Triptych Caliform, and her novella in verse About a Girl. Her trans chapbook Seahorse was published by Nomadic Press. She lives in Oakland, where she's the editor at Nomadic Press and works at St. James Infirmary, a clinic for sex workers in San Francisco. Give a warm welcome, everyone, to the wonderful Natasha Dennerstein.
Thank you so much. The first poem I'm going to read is called O Positive, 1993. You trance all weekend on E and meth, meet red glitterhorn sky, cloven hoof and tail him home and fuck for hours, bronchitis me Monday morning, sounds shocking, can't hardly speak. I cinnamon you stewed apples. Later you tell me the virus. And that was the weekend. You said you knew, like a woman can know, the exact moment of conception when her ovum is penetrated, a tiny ping. You say you know that I knew too, and I did. I never knew how sick you were, how the virus colonized you, how your blood let us down, how you couldn't fight infection. Then you died, and I miss you. The next poem I'm going to read is called Tenderloin, and it's from this book. And all the poems have got an accompanying painting. That's the one that's going with the Tenderloin poem by my friend Kay Freeman, who I collaborate with. She's a fantastic painter in Los Angeles. And this is the poem called Tenderloin. Down on the street, I step in dog shit, human shit, unknown shit, broken needles, the broken hearted, and get yelled at by broken faces saying, "What are you?" Or, "Girl, are you a boy or a girl?" Or better still, "Nice ass. Can I tap it?" Grabbed at with words and eyes and sometimes with hands, clutching at my thrift store garments. So I ride the elevator up to my single room occupancy building and walk the bleached corridor, past the communal bathroom, past the communal toilet to my 10-foot by 12-foot haven and slam the door. And it's just like a prison cell, except I can smoke and pace and turn the light on and turn the light off when and if I want, and can eat canned beans and toast and drink instant coffee with hella sugar, and no motherfucker talks to me unless I call them on my cell phone or chat them on my internet thingy or let them come over if they've got $50. It ain't much, but it's a life. And I'd like to dedicate that poem to Caitlyn Jenner. You know, we don't all live in Malibu and wear Louboutins, bitch. You know? so many of us trans girls are housing insecure and employment insecure. Just throwing that in there, trying not to be political, but I can't help myself. Forgive me. Okay, I'm done. The next one is called Popcorn Popper. Fetishized, sexualized, aware of my self-worth only in terms of who wanted me, how attractive I was or wasn't. I had to unlearn a whole lot of stuff, learn some new stuff. Older women were my teachers, my witches. I had to develop some interests and brand new skill sets. Had to learn when men were listening to me or looking me up and down. Had to befriend women, see them as allies, not competitors. Had to watch smart women and do like they did, comport myself like them. I fully joined the female race as a card-carrying member, started to learn how to earn the title sister. Had to learn when introduced to a couple to focus on her, converse with her, give him politeness, but my attention to the woman. That's why I could only relax in queer environments. I didn't know the arcane laws of heterosexuality. Street cunning turned me into a quick learner. I moved freely between many worlds, a spy in the house of love. And this next poem is called Non, je ne regrette rien. There's nothing sadder than somebody who's had genital surgery and regrets it because you can't unring a bell. The first cut is the deepest and all of that. But lucky for me, I love being a woman, despite a lifetime of treatment as a second-class citizen and often being deemed not to be authentic enough, although feeling very authentic, as if there can be degrees of authenticity. You know, the French call us femmes synthétiques, plastic women. And I don't mind because they say if you can't have children, then you're not really something, but who cares? It's the price you pay and you can't have it all, but you can. Would I undo anything? Hell no. I'm a trans bitch and straddle the world of gender and therefore have special knowledge and special powers. I can cross my legs like a woman while folding my arms like a man. Thank you. And I am going to finish with another poem. And it's called Stardust. We dance in the club in our latex, lurex, fun fur, tassels, our fringes, our hair flying as we whirl, whirl, whirl. We orbit each other, smile on the floor, beats pumping, a heartbeat of love. We create an atmosphere of joy, spinning until the walls dissolve, spin away into space. We create our universe here of bodies free from constraint of gravity and law. We exist in the galaxy of dance, the DJ, our creator. We are particles orbiting in the dance club of existence. We are stardust. Thank you so much. And congratulations to James on the publication of his book, which is a very good book, The God of San Francisco. And it's a book we need. Gay history in poetry, important. Future generations can read it and learn. The children can be schooled by reading that book.
That means a lot, Natasha. Thank you so much. And you've got a lot of big fans. And hopefully, if this was the first time people heard you tonight, you've got some new fans because we love your work so much. Thank you so much, Natasha, for reading with us tonight. We have one more reader on our panel. Again, please feel free to comment. Send us questions. We'll answer as many as we can at the end of the night. We'll answer anything, right? So our next reader is someone that it's got kind of hard for me to introduce. I've introduced him before. I've known him for years. I feel like he's a great friend. And honestly, I don't know if he knows this, but this book would not have happened without Baruch, because he basically had to shake me and say, would you just submit the damn thing? So the God of San Francisco would not be here without him. He's a writer, he's a performer, he's an organizer, professional MC, you name it. He's the author of the chapbooks I Miss You Delicate and Lovers of the Deep Fried Circle, both from Sibling Rivalry Press. He's the head organizer of Donde Está Mi Gente, a Latinx literary performance series. And he's currently the lead artist in a multidisciplinary project that will create new queer Latin superheroes, which is absolutely amazing. I could go on and on with his bio, but let's just bring him on. Baruch Porras-Hernandez, everyone.
Hello. Thank you so much for those beautiful words, James. You know, I miss getting drunk with you and talking all night about poetry in San Francisco. Once the pandemic's over, well, you can get drunk since I don't drink anymore, and I can just be high on pot gummies, and we can talk poetry and check out boys' butts at Twin Peaks when everything hopefully goes back to gay normal. Yeah,
it's a date, and you better promise.
Yes, it's gonna happen. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to hold a copy of your book in my hands. Speaking of books, if you're interested in supporting a gay little Mexican immigrant, here are my two little small poetry collections or chapbooks from Sibling Rivalry Press. My first poem that I'm going to read is from this one, and it's titled Lovers of the Deep Fried Circle. And the poem I'm going to read is Resting Gently on Her Unibrow. Thank you so much for having me. She had several self-portraits in which she painted an object on her forehead. If it was a small image of her husband on her forehead, it would be titled Thinking of Diego. If it was a small image of a skull on her forehead, it would be titled Thinking of Death. Oh, Frida, if only I could live as a small painting on your forehead, resting gently on your unibrow like this. With a small painting on my forehead of a donut. The painting would be titled Frida Kahlo, Thinking of Baruch Porras-Hernandez. That's me, thinking of a donut. And on top of the donut, where its tiny donut forehead would be, between the sprinkles, another painting of Frida Kahlo. And on her forehead, yet another painting of me. And on my forehead, yet another painting of a donut. And so on, and so on, and forever, and forever, and forever, and forever, and forever. The end. All right, this other poem I'm going to read is a new piece. It is titled Tips on How to Survive a Pandemic. Go for a walk once a day. Try to be around trees. Try not to think about ghosts. Don't think about the over 500,000 new ghosts walking around, wondering what happened. Over 500,000 new ghost voices asking why. New ghosts crowding into boarded up empty San Francisco bars and venues, sitting in empty movie theaters, staring angrily at people who still, over a year later, walk around not wearing masks. Play some music for these new ghosts. Pour them a drink. Put your hand out to the air to maybe touch a ghostly hand or get a ghost high five from someone who misses touching someone as much as you do. Light a candle for them. Speak the words, "I'm sorry," in the dark, even though you did what you could. You stayed inside, you wore your masks. Let Netflix keep playing on a loop as you clean your room in case the new ghosts want something to watch. Picture yourself on a dance floor with all the people you have ever loved. All of them. Your friends, family, past lovers, new lovers, even your frenemies. Have a big ass dance party in your mind. Go wild. Let yourself cry as much as you need to. Don't forget to hydrate. Call a friend once a day. Even if you run out of things to talk about, try talking about the best positions to cry in despair. On the floor, against the wall, in the bathroom, or stick to the classics. Lie down and be depressed on your own actual bed. Wear your mask, wash your hands, video chat your friends. Think about how we will all be in the same room together again someday, hugging, smiling, laughing, fucking maybe, not wearing masks. It will get rough, it may get rougher, but we gotta push through. Do it for the people who love you. Do it for the people that we lost. Do it for you. Google how to punch Nazis in the throat, even though you have no upper body strength. Bookmark all the ways you can survive the next apocalypse. Even though you might never read those articles, at least you'll know how to punch a Nazi in the throat. When you get super lonely, dance in your room to a sexy and/or romantic song. It's okay, close your blinds, no one will see you. This time, don't picture a room full of your friends. This time, imagine a dance floor full of beautiful queer strangers, all dancing close and slowly together, passionately. Imagine you see a handsome man across the room. Slowly move towards each other like a musical. Slowly touch each other's hands. Take in the scent of this man as you begin to dance. Let him press himself against you, even though you don't even know his name. Feel his cheek on your cheek. Smile every time each of your ears brush softly together with each dance move, both leading, both following. Close your eyes and let your heart open again. Picture a room in the future where you will let your heart open again and sing. The end. This next poem is titled, which is from, I don't know, it's one of these poems. I forget which book has which, but this is the I Miss You Delicate. You can still buy it from Sibling Rivalry Press. Please buy it. I'm so poor. I have no money. Okay, so this next poem is titled Fog Song. When the first people that ever stepped foot onto what is now called San Francisco arrived, I welcomed them with a cold, wet kiss. Rolled over the hills and sand dunes, rested softly on their heads, circled their feet, became so thick they couldn't see their hands, made them feel like they had disappeared. I still love making the temperature drop, clasp my hands over the sun, laugh as people hopeful for summer hug themselves, protecting their nipples from me. They go home, come back warmer dressed, laugh, light a cigarette and walk around smoking in my drizzle. Children run around in the city at night, weave through street people as if they are trees, jump over the sleeping bodies on sidewalks. Mothers walk slowly after the buses stop running as they pray. I slowly follow them. People are so strange. People. I remember them before they built the buildings and roads. See the young ones pressing their gadgets and phones, just like fingers once pressed into sieves, searching, working, thirsty for gold. When I lay myself on top of this almost island, I give them a message of things to come. Not earthquakes or fires or waves from the sea, but cold. There is a great cold coming. One day, A great change will bring an endless frost, cover the city with snow, turn its hills into pillars of ice, and the last people to ever leave the most beautiful city in the world will carry it in their chests, glowing like lanterns. When that time comes, I will become heavy. I will become homesickness, follow them everywhere they go, a reminder of the place where they found their hearts. The end. All right, and I think I have time for 2 more. I might not. Let me look at my little timer here. I forgot to set it, so I'm just gonna do one last poem. Thank you so much for having me, James, and everyone. All the other poets which are good friends of mine. This has been a great hanging out with. I hope we can all chat after the show. This last poem is also found in my 2 little chapbook collections. But don't buy those. Buy James's book. James's book is so good. I'm so happy that it's a book. And I remember when he first read me the poem, The God of San Francisco, and I wept, cried at the Twin Peaks bar, surrounded by all those drunk gay guys. It was beautiful. All right. This poem is called The Dead Never Visit San Francisco. The dead never visit San Francisco. Instead, they ride the fog to the Golden Gate Bridge, where they sit on the cables to watch the sunset. After, they keep their dead eyes on the waves and wait. When it is fully dark, one by one, the jumpers poke their heads out of their grave, float back onto the silent steel, stare out across the bay, then let themselves fall all over again. The spirits of the city try to stop them. Come with us. Come with us to the next world, they beg. An invisible battle no one can ever see as cars rush by. Each year, some suicide ghosts decide to leave with the others, to finally rest. Most of them jump again, back down, sink to the bottom of the waters to wait for the next day of the dead. All right, those were my poems. Thank you so much for having me, and yeah.
Thank you, Baruch. Thank you so much for all your kind words, and I love hearing you read all the time, and I can't wait till we can get back together. And why do all of our stories revolve around drunk people? I have no idea. But
because I used to love those martinis, honey.
I know. Well, again soon. So thank you so much, Baruch. And
thanks, James.
Yeah, and also if they think they put in the chat that you can get all of our books at the link. So buy Baruch's book. Help him out. Help us all out. There it is. It's on the screen. So
help us. We're writers. We're poor.
Exactly. So we're going to close out the night with some of my poems. But before I get to mine, we're just going to run with one of my poems that's in a video format. So take it away. Summer in San Francisco is never this warm. Yet here we are, 90 degrees in August, the hottest day of the year. The flowers have dragged their blooms from the basement, the fog packed away for another day. And this season's crop of young men have shed their clothes on the lawns of Dolores Park. Their pale, bony torsos have turned to copper, turned to mercury. They are becoming something more, and now we see that anything is possible. Even today's news is possible. The front page fluttering on a park bench. No obits, as though death has quit his job, taken a much-deserved rest. For years, the names poured in, a deluge. The editor's inbox flooded with crisp white envelopes, handwritten return addresses staring back like an epitaph, piles of human history type-spaced on an ancient typewriter, a life folded neatly, a shroud, holding a photo, the face of someone now gone, journeying off to the dark mysteries we all fear. Now the Bay Breeze flips the front page to the classifieds, the arts section, an ad for the opera, the tea room theater, and the past comes back as a whisper. We were a generation betrayed by government, the face of Reagan, betrayed by a silence that shouted, "There is nothing to see here. There is nothing that can be done." Our families buried us before we could die, and the family we adopted lived as they stood dying, refusing the betrayal of our own bodies. An inside job. Our cells resisting the cocktail of pills, thrush, and sarcoma, and still we sipped sidecars with the North Beach crowds, the Beat Boys at Vesuvio, the queens of Finocchios on Broadway, because this life was worth hanging onto. Our halos, cabaret lights burning until burning out. Next week, perhaps next month, when September rolls off the ocean, the season will cool, the chill of mortality settling in the air. But today, the city is a warm hand, a lost friend inviting us to stretch our limbs on the green grass, to feel the sun's rays on our skin. One day, this will blink out, fade away, die, but not yet, not today. All right, thank you so much for watching the video. That No Obits is one of the poems in the book. Also just have to give a shout out to the amazing Matt Jaffe who put the music to that. So thank you so much for watching that. And I'm gonna get right into some of the poems from the God of San Francisco. I'm gonna start off with a poem called Gay Cancer. When men died of gay cancer, I was only 5, preoccupied combing the manes of purple ponies, bending Barbie's legs to fit snug in her pink convertible. The nightly news was a montage of pale skin and pitted cheeks, thin bodies and fevered eyes. Then back to regular programming, sequined solid gold dancers twirling to the week's top 10. I twirled in my driveway like Linda Carter in her star-spangled shorts, while the white, hot sun bleached the neighborhood streets and the grid sparked to life. That was the summer a sick boy took a dip in the city pool. So they drained the water, scrubbed the tiles clean, and waited for the all clear. No one could be too safe. So we made do with the slip and slide, grape Kool-Aid and rocket pops, our mothers with their menthols, lawn chairs, and lemonade, deconstructing the perfect Hollywood male, Tom Selleck versus Burt Reynolds. And sometimes they whispered theories on transmission, saliva, blood, soft men, loose-hipped and high-heeled, wasting away in San Francisco, New York, 1 or 2 in Toledo, Ohio, if the gossip was true. I left adult talk to adults and helped my best friend wrap her hair in Princess Leia buns, ignored the debates on disease, disappointment, a boy's unnatural desire to slip his bare foot in a sheer stocking. The years that followed brought us the great nail polish panic, licorice red fingers and toes, Ryan White and Kokomo, bullets shot through his living room window. We could never be too safe. So my mother locked up her makeup case, and my father pulled me under the remains of a rusted Chevy Blazer, pointing out car parts like constellations, slowly, patiently teaching me the importance of fixing damaged pieces. And the next poem is about a place that is here, but will no longer be here pretty soon. And this is called Elegy for the Castro Funeral Home. 100 years and you are gone. Death is not the business it once was. Monument to loss, your crumbling facade, a reminder of days we would rather forget. But forgetting is just more dying. So who will remember you when the bulldozer and the wrecking ball levels your walls, clears the way for more overpriced homes? When new bones rise from your foundation and jackhammers turn concrete to dust, will anyone listen for benedictions haunting the dusty air? Will anyone pry loose a century of eulogies trapped in the earth? And will they pour forth from the pavement cracks like steam, a pale ghost ascending the sky? From your ashes, a tower of condos for the living, East Coast dreamers seeking a California mythology, too young to know the power of death or a quilt of names a mile long. Will they know where they sleep at night? And will they wake in dark hours to the sweet perfume of gardenias, lilies? Wake to the burning of vigil candles, the honey scent of soft wax, smoke, and ember from dying flames? And when they gut your front parlor for a coffee shop or sidewalk cafe, will anyone remember the dead in repose? Will anyone sip a morning brew and witness phantom pallbearers, another casket carried out your front door? Day after day, week after week, how did you keep up with death's punctual schedule? As many as 3 funerals a day in that decade of decimation. Will anyone remember you as the only mortuary in San Francisco to open its doors to the victims of AIDS? In those days, even the dead were turned away, but you dressed them in suits and ties, washed and combed their hair, powdered the skin to hide the scars and sores, made them into handsome young men again. So will we remember, or will we build and build again, turning earth over and over until history is another buried thing? The next poem is sort of an ode to going out, which I miss. Me and Baruch obviously miss very much, and this is called Stars. In San Francisco, you cannot see the stars. The planets wrap themselves in night fog, so I go searching for other forms of light. The marquee of the Castro Theater, an exclamation point punctuating the sky, and the people passing by shimmer and shine, queens in their rhinestone gowns, footfall, lightning, and thunder, and a size 12 pump. I am a lost sailor, and they are the 7 sisters, the Pleiades descending from the darkness, a chandelier earring sparkling in lamp glow. They captain their own ship, and I follow their navigation to the midnight sun, the Moby Dick bar, where they obtain a gravitational pull. The room shifts as the eyes turn to gaze on this mythology, this astronomical event in a thigh-high boot, wigs teased to reach the troposphere. No one can resist this orbit. Men become satellites leaning in to light a cigarette, to carry their bags, seeking a fraction of this light, because we are all small creatures. We are just a fraction of the duality and fishnets, a blood-red lip. Even I cannot escape the magnetic drag that lures me across the bar to ask, may I buy you a drink? Yes. A vodka, a splash of cranberry. It is an offering to the heavens, to Libra. The great scales in perfect balance, the male, the female churning away within us all. It is an offering to the day when I too will glow. A nebula, a cloud of dust moving along the sidewalk, unashamed. But tonight I gaze on the disco ball, its brilliant luminescence spinning on the surface of my martini, Andromeda floating on gin and vermouth. And here's a little poem. It's past Easter, but I think I can still read it. It's called Jesus Descends on Golden Gate Park. The children have chased down their final pastel eggs, and the church bells have exhausted their alleluias. He has risen indeed. Now the park is overflowing with men showing off their Easter bonnets, Cadbury cream concoctions of hot glue and plastic flowers. Now come the sisters of perpetual indulgence, saints of the night celebrating the holiest of days, the life everlasting. So their winged habits point to eternity, and their arms are outstretched to bless the crowds of heathens, the beautiful blasphemers. We are all waiting for the Savior to rise again. We are all waiting for the hunky Jesus contest to begin. One Jesus after another takes the stage like the Son of Man standing before Pilate. But no one calls for a crucifixion, only a passion play, a cast of Christ stripped to a loincloth, a jockstrap, crowns of thorns, and lipstick stigmata. They are all here. The carpenter's son with his tool belt and CrossFit abs, Christ in a harness, leather chaps, nipple rings like little halos. Jesus in bunny ears, Jesus in lingerie, Jesus in fishnets cross-dressing his way through Nazareth. This is a Catholic school expulsion, a Vatican heresy, and yet we have just begun. In comes Christ on roller skates, a cheerleading Christ shaking pom-poms, doing the splits, rock star Jesus with a crucifix guitar. Suddenly, clouds of smoke rise, and the Christ of the Haight-Ashbury appears. Barefooted, dreadlocked, water bubbling in a glass bong. The Midwest grandmas clutch their rosaries, the Pentecostal bishops hold their Bibles high, and the televangelists speak in tongues. We are the spit in God's eye. We are the Sodom and Gomorrah of the West, and soon we will turn to pillars of salt. Soon we will pay a heavy price. Earth cracking open, bay turned to blood, frogs raining from the sky, and disease and plague and darkness for 3 days. No one knows darkness like the men and women standing shoulder to shoulder in Golden Gate Park celebrating resurrection. These San Francisco elders, this Castro royalty, this order of nuns in corsets and leather, they were here for darkness when others ran the other way. Do not preach to them of plague, extinction, that Old Testament God flooding the world to start over again. More dead than a century of Sundays, Calvary Hill in a hospice bed, a decade of church doors locked tight, priests sleeping through the 80s, ministers of God's wrath condemning the 90s. So who anointed the sick? Who are the disciples guiding soul from body? Who buried the children of God? Who shined the love of Christ into the shadows of mortality? It was the queens and queers, the altar boy runaways and Catholic school refugees, the dying caring for the dying, adopted brothers and sisters descending into hell again and again, day after day, until light somehow found a way in. So this day of the Lord, this end of Lent is all for them. The old God of vengeance is dead, the Christ of compassion, the Christ of understanding, the Christ of love is here today, reborn again in Golden Gate Park. All right, and next, let's see. I think I'm just gonna read 2 more poems, and then yeah, we'll wrap it up. So just trying to decide what exactly I want to wrap it up with. Let's go with, yeah, let's do that. All right, so this is called They Still Say Faggot in San Francisco. It is a word I still hear when the Muni train pulls into Castro Station. Faggot. As in, this is where the faggots get off. This is where all the faggots live. It is just a word from the Old French, Middle English faggot, literally meaning a bundle of sticks, branches bound together for a torch, a binding. It is only a word, and still I flinch as though I bit my tongue. I cringe because this is San Francisco, city in a catsuit, purring at the moon, leather pups pawing their masters at Folsom. This is not Wyoming, rural Ohio. This is not my Catholic school or Bible Belt country club. This is where rainbow flags umbrella the sky like a queer force field, a kaleidoscope bubble of security. And still, I look over my shoulder when walking home alone because a queen was beaten leaving the Eagle. Not a mugging, nothing taken. The only desire was to blacken the eyes, break a tooth, stain the concrete with faggot blood. Faggot, a noun derived from the verb faggoting, the forging of steel and iron rods. It reminds me of 9 irons in the back of a pickup truck. The young men who drive into San Francisco on Pride weekend, hunting queers, leaving the parades, waiting to blare their horns, flash their headlights, and scream, faggot. Fagala, an old Yiddish word meaning little bird, makes me think of Featherlin, a radical fairy beaten until unconscious, a Sunday morning left to die on the street where church meets to boast. Fragile body, broken wings, and yet I know that spirit is rising. Faggot, dating back to the 16th century, as in the faggot and the stake, the burning of heretics, a word even I use when I find the ones I love, when I find my friends at the bar. Good evening, my beautiful faggots. The first drink is on me, because we are still a dying breed, and I am a pillar of fire. I am an extraordinary conflagration, a beautiful immolation. I am flaming. Thank you guys so much for listening tonight, and I'm going to end with the title poem of the book, The God of San Francisco. Thank you to the museum for having us tonight, and thank you all for being here. This is The God of San Francisco. Some believe the God of San Francisco has taken his throne at the top of Twin Peaks, a mighty Mount Olympus 900 feet above the city, where the kingdom of heaven embraces the kingdom of the bay. At that elevation, it is difficult not to see that something greater guides the way, watches over all creatures and creation, coming and going by bridge and by air, by cable car and ferry. Watch as the west erupts with light, the sun that drops into the Pacific burning brighter than an angel entering the atmosphere. Watch the fog that follows floats like the Holy Ghost down the rocky hillsides to hang over Hayes Valley, the Haight-Ashbury, the sweet incense of some Catholic mass. Yes, it is difficult not to believe, but they are correct in name and name alone. My Savior has a bar stool at the Twin Peaks Tavern, a window seat to watch the world where Market Street meets Castro and the rainbow flags flap in the cold of another West Coast wind. I go there when I need religion at a happy hour price, a Bud Light baptism, when I need a good lesson that God has yet to leave us behind. He sits alone, his hands turned to vein and bone, but buy him a martini, vodka with 2 olives, extra dirty, and he will tell you anything you need to know, from the gold rush to North Beach, where the sailors wore dresses over their anchor tattoos, to Jose Sarria and the Black Cat, the Nightingale of Montgomery Street. Yes, those were the days when the prophets wore pearls, when the Bible was burlesque, and the saints mingled with the sinners, the night a lightning strike of arias and police sirens. God save us, Nelly Queens. He raises a glass to the Nevermore, the 21st Street Baths, the Elephant Walk, to Harvey and his bullhorn, a drink to the things that slipped away, the bullets that shattered brains, the murder called manslaughter, ushering in those white night riots, the shattered glass of City Hall, cop cars turned to funeral pyres. And he remembers death, coming like it did in Egypt, stealing the firstborn, the secondborn, any young man who fell in love with the twilight over Polk Street, the obituary pages doubling every day with the black and white faces of the men who colored the Castro. He can tell you how he washed the feet of skinny boys with lesions, boys in hospice beds wheeled to the window for one final look of the city at dawn, then wheeled to the morgues with no family to claim their remains. So he took them, all of them, ashes upon ashes collected and released where the ocean waters worship the glory of the Golden Gate. He scattered them in south of market bars where the men in leather tap a keg, toast the life of another dead brother. And he set them free where the winds bow and bend, genuflect for the San Francisco sky, all the bodies that danced in Folsom neon and Freedom Day parades, in disco light and speakeasy darkness, and the soft ballet of love and life, where the oceans wear a halo from the moon, and the towers of Twin Peaks glow in the resurrection of another night. Thank you all so much for being here. I think we're going to bring up all the rest of our readers. Please give it up, everyone, for Baruch Porras-Hernandez, Natasha Dennerstein, Jacque Rancourt, Dazié Grego-Sykes, and please go get all of their books. And like they said, if you still want to donate tonight, please donate to the museum, and I'll send you one of these and I'll sign it. It's all right there. And if anyone has any questions, I haven't checked the chat. We have a little bit of time. You guys can ask us whatever you want. Feel free. We'll answer anything within reason, right, you guys? We'll see what's there. So anyone doesn't have anything, I don't know. Does anybody here want to like throw anything out? Does anybody have any poetry wisdom to share, or any gay
I just wanted
poetry?
to say I loved your reading, James. The video and the other poems you read. I was just here like crying like a baby, going like, oh wait, I forgot. This stuff is really good. You know when you do a show and like the other poets read, and sometimes you're just kind of like, all right, what am I gonna do after this? Where's my pot gummy so I can order my takeout? But like everyone tonight was so great, and then James sneak attacked me and made me cry.
Thank you.
So congratulations on those poems in your book, James.
Thank you. That means a lot, and thank you to all of you for reading. And I feel like this is just for me, but I feel like the gay poetic future is in good hands with all of you. So yeah, I did.
We have a history that's important to remember, and we all mentioned HIV/AIDS, and I know there are people say, "Oh, you all have to, carry on about that all the time." Yes, we do, because if you don't talk about history, you're liable to repeat it.
Yes.
And I think it's important work, James. It's fun and it's great. But it's important work because you're schooling the children and putting down the gay history, so they can teach it in schools, and they can, when they have LGBTQ history courses, they can teach your fucking book. Say, look, this guy, came in on the tail end of that pandemic and has got some real stuff to share about it. It's very important work.
We do have one question, and I really want to throw it out there because I'm curious to see what you all say. So does San Francisco still belong to the poets? I think that's an amazing question. What do you all think?
No, we can't afford it.
Pretty much.
We can only afford Oakland. Even that's expensive.
I'm grabbing on for dear life in my tiny shitty apartment. That's really cheap, but I'm still here. I don't know. Someone else want to take that?
Anybody?
Well, I live in San Francisco, and I feel like it definitely does still belong to the poets. Everywhere you go, there's poetry. You just have to know where to look. There's a lot of us still living here, grabbing on for dear life, even though the tech industry turned San Francisco into this weird, wild beast that was trying to buck us off. And I was like, excuse me, I'm trying to write poems and suck dick. Thank you very much. I think, yeah, I mean, walk through North Beach, walk through Lower Haight, there's poet, like before the pandemic, you could literally go to a poetry show or an open mic almost every night. This is a city of poets. It was founded by poets. So many people have moved here because of one of my favorite stories that Sam Sachs tells is when he worked at the Beat Museum, he was like, if I had a nickel for every old homo that came to tell me that they had sex with Allen Ginsberg, I'd be a millionaire. And you know what? I'm sure that every one of those stories is true, because those poets were horny as F. And yeah, so I think it does still belong to the poets, and I cannot wait until the city comes back to life and to hear what poetry is going to come out of this rebirth after this pandemic. Those of us that have made it through the pandemic, and we have an incredible poet laureate now. Poet laureate of San Francisco, Tongo Eisen Martin, is a very tall, very sexy Black man, very intelligent. His poetry is fantastic, and I cannot wait to see the stuff that he does and leads us through after this pandemic has hopefully died down, knock on wood. Hopefully we're not going to get a new one after this or a new surge, because I'm getting really antsy here. But yes, my answer is yes, it does still belong to the poets, and if it doesn't, we're going to take it back as soon as we either get rid of all those techies or make them donate back to the community.
Absolutely. I can't add on to that, Baruch. I think you just that answers it. Here's one other question. Will there be poetry readings during late June Pride time? Y'all have to know something. I mean, I say of course there will be. What do y'all know? Give Larry here some advice. Well, I know I do a monthly show called Literary Speakeasy. Every month. We are online, like everything is right now. I'm going to try to make our June reading as queer as I can possibly make it. And if you want to find anything else about Literary Speakeasy, you can find it on Facebook. Other than that, there's got to be stuff going on.
I have one.
Go for it.
I run a show called Donde Está Mi Gente. We're currently collaborating with KQED. I've brought on this incredible writer named Reina Leon, who has stepped on as curator. We're focusing on Afro-Latino voices during this year. So we're primarily only working with Afro-Latino writers to help celebrate Black Latino joy and center Black Latino joy, and also call out and disrupt racismo within the Latinx community. Our show in June is going to be super gay, super queer, and it's going to be June 29th at 7 o'clock. And like most of my poetry shows will be free. So I hope you all come and help me celebrate. I'm not reading, I'm just co-hosting I'm basically just letting Reina take the lead on because I'm a very light-skinned looking Mexican and Latino, and she is an Afro-Latina from Puerto Rico. So yeah, please come to our Donde Está Mi Gente show in June.
Sounds excellent. There's two questions here that are actually kind of similar. So we'll just so several of you spoke of queer ancestors. Who would you say your queer poet ancestors are? There's another one that said, who are your favorite past poets of San Francisco? Ferlinghetti, Gunn, Ginsberg, who else? So you can answer any of those any way you want.
I would like to put Bambi Lake's name out there. Bambi Lake was an extraordinary trans woman who died very recently. And she's probably known as a lyricist, a song lyricist, but she's a very, very good poet. And of this city, very much of San Francisco. So rest on a bar stool in heaven, Bambi. I said your name.
Absolutely. Anyone else?
Diane de Prima was a really good poet. She died recently too. And people don't like that. Hasn't been a big fuss about her, but she was an excellent, strong woman poet, and very San Francisco. So, rest in peace, Diane DePrimo.
Well, I'm glad that Manya brought up Tom Gunn, because Tom Gunn is one of my favorite San Francisco poets. And again, I feel like we kind of like, if you're, a gay queer poet in San Francisco, you're kind of like on, Tom Gunn's shoulders in a way, because he did it. And not only that, but the thing that I think about is, when I was, when I wrote The God of San Francisco, I wrote it as, I was an outsider. I've been in San Francisco for 16 years now, but when I moved here, everything was so eye-opening to me, and so much of the history had already happened. Tom Gunn is one of those people who was here when it was happening. So if you want something that was, gosh, how would you put it? First person present there, Tom Gunn. So that's my favorite. Please look him up, especially, in June and during Pride Month. Anybody else want to jump in with that one?
I don't think that, sorry, I talk a lot, I'm sorry. I don't think that, I think a lot of the poetry stuff is online and everything, but I think that poets are brave and sort of, forward thinking. And I think we're going to be some of the people that are going to start opening up live stuff soon. I envisage having small readings with every second chair occupied, and small in-person readings for 12 people. Or 24 people, like boutique readings. Red Light Lit are already doing that, they're doing like a drag brunch, but for poetry, where people book a table. We should start. We should, maybe Martuni's will let you back if you only, James, if you only put 20 people in there.
We'll see. Let's hope. I'm dying to see real people again. If anyone knows anything about Martuni's, it's like the best martini piano bar in the city, and the martinis are gigantic. And I always make this joke, but it kind of isn't a joke. But when I am emceeing at Martuni's, we're getting to the end because I start slurring everyone's bios, because those martinis are gigantic. So I think we're going to do one more quick question here, and then we'll wrap it up because we're getting to the 7:30 hour. What other U.S. cities have growing or notable queer poet communities? Future San Francisco's, as it were. Does anybody have an answer to that? I'll just jump in really quick and say that since I'm from Ohio, I haven't been there in a while, but Columbus, Ohio is really up and coming, and talk about getting much more liberal. Yes, it's still Ohio, and yeah, there's still certain places I probably wouldn't want to go, but Columbus is getting much more liberal, and also there's a lot of great poets there. So that's my Columbus, Ohio.
I'm going to jump on the Midwest train here and say I came to San Francisco from Madison, Wisconsin, and that little city is so full of poetry. You can literally go to poetry reading every night, and the queer poetry scene is so vibrant there. So if you're ever in town, check out a reading in Madison.
Portland.
I was going to say Portland too. I've had such wonderful times in Portland, and every time I go there, I meet a new queer writer or poet keeping stuff alive. I also had a wonderful time in Tucson, of all places. They have a new queer poetry festival. I was able to visit it, and I was one of the features before the pandemic. And I didn't know anything about Tucson before going, but I met such great queer poets while I was there. So yeah. Tucson.
The poet laureate of Tucson, Arizona is T.C. Tolbert, a trans man. He's a very good poet and a really nice guy.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, those are some absolutely wonderful suggestions. So I think that's a wrap. It is 7:28. We are just making our curfew. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. You've already made my night, and it's still got so much of Friday to go. So there's the link right there if you want to become a member of the Historical Society. Also, remember, you can still donate tonight. Throw in $20 to them. Send your receipt over to Lee, and I will personally get one of these out in the mail for you. So thank you all so much for coming out. Happy National Poetry Month. Thank you to the GLBT Museum. Thank you to all of our readers, Natasha, Baruch, Jacques, Dazié. Thank you. I love you all.